And Fab, are you familiar with Samuel Birch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm familiar with Samuel Birch, and I've used a lot of different Egyptologist work. And I can go down the line. Eventually, I'm gonna go down the line of some of them and just share their information. But it's better as I share that you see it. So Samuel Birch, he wrote this book. And in this book, he's giving you, the people who, well, basically pertaining to what's in my, my screen, the Rosetta Stone.
Okay.
So you have one person who said before they found the Rosetta Stone that the names in the cartouche, excuse me, let me say this the right way, that the cartouche, okay, what they call the ring that has some hieroglyphs and hieroglyphs around them, like on the Rosetta Stone, that's something that represents the name. Now, on this first page, because I literally want to read it, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to be subjective. Let me find it. Where was it? There we go. Okay, so make sure I'm loud and clear. Hold on one moment. Hold on. Here we go. So in the introduction, so we're talking about, what's this? A3. In his book, this book is dedicated to the memory Samuel Birch, author of the first Egyptian dictionary. And I remind you, it says the first Egyptian dictionary, arranged alphabetically. So when you get this book, it's about 750 pages. It's going to give you a great deal. Now, from his work to whoever in between who made a change here or found out something different here, that's cool, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to this is giving you some key information. Now, it's a heavy read and something you have to deal with. So this is like a memory to him. And in the beginning of this, we find that some very interesting things. So when one can say that if you're going to be scientific with it and you're going to come up with something, you're going to have to show your work. You're going to be mathematical with it. You can't just have the answer to the math, as Walter Williams did. You can't just give me the answer, but you're not going to show me your work. You're not going to show me how you got your answer. So when it comes to this, and that's just my personal, you know what I'm saying? I'll say I just made a subjective statement for that one. So the Abbe J.J. Bartholomew in 1795, that's his lifespan. And they said as far back, and this is his work, in 1761 shows satisfactorily that the ovals in Egyptian inscription, which we call cartouches, contain royal names. So he says this: Zoega is a person who continues it and says he accepted the view and developing it, stated that the hieroglyphs in them were alphabetic letters. So we have two people, one saying that cartouches, all right, well, you gotta be scientific with it. I wanna see his work. I haven't been able to find his work. So when it comes to George Zoega, he's the one who says he accepted the view and developing it, stated that the hieroglyphs in them were alphabetic letters. Where's his work? So I did skip a little. There's a whole paragraph above this that, I always skip and get to the meat and potato of it because that's the people who we can say it goes from Ackerblad to Zoega's discoveries. So if this person,
I'm sorry. You spell the last name?
Zoega.
Okay. All right, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Okay, so these are the people. Now, this is just giving who put this alphabet together. This is dealing with the Rosetta Stone, just that stuff. But this is from Samuel Birch's book. This is why it's important. That, let me get to the point. But that they're alphabetic letters. So it doesn't give us how he came to that conclusion. It just says he developing it. He developed with what? What did he develop it with? I mean, this is a man from where he's from. So we have people that live in Egypt at that time, you know, so, okay, well, anyway, subjective. Had Alkerblatt. So now we have three names. So these are the three people, the key figures to this hieroglyphic translation. Had Alkerblatt 1760 to 1819 and S. de Saucy 1758, 1838 accepted these facts. So these are the people. So they're the people who accept these facts, you know, from the development from Zoega, who went off of what J.J. Bartholomew said about some names in the cartouche. So those are in the cartouche, these are names. And now you have all this. Okay, so how do they conclude that? Remember, this stuff is happening before the Rosetta Stone is found. I want you to keep that in mind. So, in work to develop them, the progress of Egyptological science would have been materially hastened. Now, they're saying, I gotta read this again, they do this often. And in fact, everything I'm reading right now was read after Kemet on trial.
Yeah.
This is the same stuff. Okay, so it says here that had Alkerblatt and de Saucy accepted these facts and worked to develop them. So these are the ones who used the development of George Zoega, and now they developed them. The progress of Egyptological science would have been materially hastened. They failed, however, to pay much attention to the hieroglyphics inscriptions of which copies were available. Again, this is before the Rosetta Stone. So how are people doing stuff with these hieroglyphs and stuff if we needed this Rosetta Stone to translate it? Okay, so I gotta say it again, man. They failed, however, to pay much attention to the hieroglyphic inscriptions of which copies were available, and devoted all their time and labor to the elucidation of the enchorial or enchorial, some just say enchorial or demotic text of the Rosetta Stone, the discovery of which had roused such profound interest among the learned men of that day. Their labors in connection with the text were crowned with considerable success. Why? To Alkerblatt belongs the credit of being the first European to formulate a demotic alphabet and to give the values of its characters in Coptic letters. How Coptic pops in. There's no Coptic on the Rosetta Stone, by the way. But neither he nor S. de Saucy seems to have suspected the existence of a hieroglyphic alphabet. But I have to read this again because this is very key and important to what I'm saying. This is just the second paragraph on this page. And again, it says, but neither he nor Saucy, means Ackerblatt or Saucy, seem to have suspected the existence of a hieroglyphic alphabet. So, well, okay, let me finish the point here. I said both, but these eminent scholars produce lists or small vocabularies or words and added translations of them, which are surprisingly correct considering the period when they were compiled, and were able to read correctly the demotic equivalents of several Greek royal names, Alexander, Ptolemy, and Bernice. Their failure to apply the method by which they achieved such success to the hieroglyphic inscriptions is inexplicable. It has been suggested that their scholarly minds revolted at the absurd views, theories, and statements about the Egyptian hieroglyphs made by Athanasius Kircher, Jablonski, Jede Guinness. I always say that name wrong. I forgot to pronounce that one. And Tai Shin and others, and the suggestion is possibly correct after the publication of his letter to S. de Saucy. Alkerblatt seems to have dropped his Egyptological studies. At all events, he published nothing about them. De Saucy, though he did not consider that he had wasted the time that he had spent on the demotic text on the Rosetta Stone, refrained from further research in Egyptology, and nothing of importance was affected of the decipherment of Egyptian hieroglyphs until Dr. Thomas Young turned his attention to it. So that's why that was one of the key things on Samuel Birch. Now there's so much more in there after that reads, but then I'll be sitting there reading this all day.
Yeah. It's best for the people to buy the copy of the book and read it them their own selves.
That's right.
On their own time. All right. So you done right there, or do you want
to
add a little more?
That was the importance of Samuel Birch. That was the key things that in work dedicated to him and by him that drew my attention, and I was like, holy, shit. And that's also in E.A. Wallace Budge's work. He also points you to that. Apologies for the mistakes in the names. But let me spell out the names that were mentioned. So these names of importance, J.J. Bartholomew, that's Barthelemy. So you gotta put ABBE JJ BARTHELEMY. And he lived 1716, 1795.
17.
Spell it one more time.
BARTHELEMY. You have George Zoega. Everyone knows how to spell George. Zoega, Zoega. He's 1756 to 1809. You got Sylvester de Saucy, but you could just put S and then space and DE space SACY. His name will always pop right up. But 1758 to 1838, that's his lifespan. David Akerblatt, most know how to spell David. Akerblatt is AKERBLAD. That's Johann David Akerblatt. There's a couple more names in that, and that'll be it for the names of people. Athanasius Kircher, ATHANASIUS. Kircher is KIRCHER, and he's 1601 to 1680. Jablonski, that's JABLONSKI, that's 1673 to 1757. You also have JD, and the D is DE, and that's Guinness. I forgot if that's a French pronunciation on it, the GUIGNES, but it's GUIGNES, and that's 1721 to 1800.
Oh, you know what you could do? My bad. You could drop those reference sources in the chat.
For sure. Instead of reading them. Well, I wanted to read it so it'll be recorded.
Or he could send it to Nico, and then Nico could drop it in the chat, or send it to me, and I could drop it in the chat.
Yeah, I had a couple.
I
had a couple technical questions for the audience that people can study up and research on later. So
Mm-hmm.
Matt, can I throw a couple technical questions?
Go
They
ahead, go
might
ahead,
be
go ahead.
they might be softballs for you, but you know, you got to keep in mind, like Blanco was saying the other day, some of this information, this is the first time people hearing any of this information.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was kind of looking at some of the notes here. Matt, what exactly is a neological phonetic fallacy?
All right. That's something that I created. A neology is when you take a word that already means something and then you make it mean something else. And you're keeping in mind that is a word that you just took and you know that the original meaning and you're changing it to a new meaning. So when I created that, what's it called? Neological phonetic fallacy. So then you apply it phonetically by, being able to say it. So I used this against Ntr Deb when he would use hieroglyphs and he would put a word up there and he would say this word in ancient Egypt matches this word in the Dinka language or the Dongola language. And the one he focused on was the Dongola language. And he was putting up words that didn't even match. They didn't sound like Adam, and another word is like Tommy or some shit. These were not like direct sounds, direct links. And when you do that and you're not using diacritical marks, it's just ridiculous because those languages, you have to use diacritical marks in order to express how the word is said. So that's the phonetic part. And I call it a fallacy because he's making a great error because he's using hieroglyphs. So when the people that speak Dongola, by the way, that's not the original name of that language. I believe it's Andi. And when you use that Dongola language, Andi, they have words that they'll say what an eyeball is, a hand is, a face is, a body is, a hawk, a snake. Any one of those hieroglyphs, they have a word for that hieroglyph. That when they look at that hieroglyph, they're going to use their language to express that's what they would, that's what they see. So that's the fallacy part of it. For me, that's something I invented.
Okay, which that led me right into my second question because you brought up Ntr Deb. So I want to ask you, what is comparative linguistics and how does that tie in with languages? A thesaurus earlier today, we brought up Theophilo Benga and Immobile and how they're engaging in pseudo comparative linguistics. So Ntr Deb was kind of a good segue into that.
Right. So staying within the narrative of even saying that the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been translated, this is an ancient language. So when you deal scholastically, we're talking about Ivy League school, the universities in England, the universities in the top ones in Europe, the people, that make Yale and all these schools look like nothing, where they get their marching orders from, they get their curriculum changes from. They have a strict way of linguistics and they deem anything, where anytime you try and compare a language spoken now to an ancient language, they call it pseudo-scientific language comparison. Or just super pseudo-linguistics.
And how would you compare that to indigenous language? Because you had put something in your notes the other day about indigenous languages. So are they not really comparing it? Are they just like comparing French and English or Bantu to French? Or are they actually comparing it to actual indigenous languages on the Nile when they're referring to meta-netter?
The ones who were called pseudo-scientific language comparison, that was Cheikh Diop, that was Jean-Claude Mboli, Theophilo Benga, Bingo or something. You know what? Let me pull it up, man.
Yeah, are you familiar with the people he's saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Continue, man. I'm sorry.
There's a couple other people. but I want to be able to read straight from it. And you have the classic ones like Cornelius Agrippa, the people who they claim they were first doing this, where they'll say, "Oh yeah, that sounds like this language over there." So it's always been deemed a pseudoscience when someone says, "Oh, the ancient Sumerian language sounds like the people in the island," you know,
Yeah.
and because there's a word that sounds similar, that even in it, it's such a tedious, it's such a petty thing with linguists and professors that they'll say, even if the words sound alike, you do not know for a fact that these words came from each other. You know, you don't know for a fact. You have to have a direct link to show and prove. So you could say, I'm a, or even in the Berber languages for water, and this is a good example. Water is aman. They'll say aman, you know, for the word water. But when you look at the ancient Egyptian symbol, it's just, they'll say that's the surface of water, and it just means the letter N, the sound that you would make from the letter N. So someone can say, oh, look, that proves. So if you ever see the hieroglyphs, this is going into both. This is actually bringing both points together. That when you go into the hieroglyphs and you see what they'll say is the A and the M, and then even when you see what they'll say is Amen in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, they're saying that's proven that it's true, because in the Berber language, they say Aman for the surface of water. So they don't have evidence of that. But when someone tries to use that and say, look, this shows and proves that it's the Berber language, you get into conflict and problems. And that's probably what you was going to go into in the next one, Nico.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So,
Because
mhm.
like you said something about the rules and the rules of linguistics when it comes to universities. So would you say, like, if you're using a thesaurus, because the reason I bring this up, Fab, he had showed me a couple images of some thesaurus pages the other day. Would you say when you're comparing two languages, it has to be not only the syntax, but also the meaning? Like there's different
Yes.
criteria you have to use when you're looking at a
Mhm.
thesaurus?
Yeah, within that language. Like with the English language, if you start to intellectually masturbate, right?
Right.
If most might not know what that means, it's when you're talking about something and you're like going on, just talking and talking and talking about it. Well, actually, when we're speaking to each other, we're speaking a multifaceted of languages. So when you start talking about certain things, it's a language that you're speaking. You know, there's like specific languages, and if you in the Rosette Thesaurus, they explain that like you have the Billingsgate language, like you have a language that the math has its own language. In court, it has its own language. So they have like it's different ways of speaking, and yeah, that's the key point to that.
Oh,
You
okay.
got any more questions, Nico?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going so that way we can kind of go over a lot of them, and then
Okay.
towards
I
the
got
mid,
you. I got you.
and then towards
But
the
Gotta
middle
don't
or
get
forget,
the
don't
end,
forget.
we can
gotta get the good
recap, and
stuff
then
out
you
the way,
guys can
man.
fill in with more
All right.
questions.
All right. So hold
Okay.
on, because I gotta ask this before you start asking the questions. Fab, you got any questions you want to ask Matt?
Nah, I'm just writing stuff down, but just if you could like just like I said earlier, just like try to like if you get a chance to share your reference sources to Nico and so you can send it to me. That's it.
Okay.
You mean
You can
now
go.
or later? Because I
You can send it
noticed that
now.
you
You can
like
send
a
it in
lot
a
of
group.
book citations. So do you need them now or for later?
You could send them. It's better if you can send them now if you have the chance. Like if you could do it now, then yeah.
Okay.
All right, Nico, go ahead.
Um, yeah, earlier bringing up Walter Williams. With this Meta Netter stuff, was the Coptic Church and the Sufis involved in a lot of this stuff with the tourism and pumping the Meta Netter, or would you say this even came way before the Coptic Church and the Sufi movements and stuff like that.
See with me and like I told Walter Williams, I disagree with a lot of that Coptic stuff, man. I feel, well, I'll say in my own personal research, I have stumbled across some very interesting things about the Coptic language. So I do not predate the Coptic language before Shalebi. I'll get the first name so you know how to look up. But there's Shalebi and the other name slips my mind. And it's like these two people, this is like 16th century AD. When I did my own personal research on the Coptic and the challenges I had, I couldn't find anything that was in its original form before 10,000 AD, so 1,000 years ago. And when it comes to that, I say that that's just me personally, that I can't use Coptic for anything that's pertaining to ancient languages. Because even when it comes to the stuff that was from the 10th century, it's all biblical. Like none of it is talking about any Kemetic philosophy or some pharaoh's ruling or any, there's nothing about that. It's all biblical. So when it comes to the Coptic, and even with the biblical stuff in the Coptic, I challenge that because of the people connected to it. And I've been called conspiracy theorist for that, but it's just some things don't add up. So when it comes to Coptic, I personally do not predate the information before Pope Cyril. And I had conflict with that dealing with the other dialects that they say are from. And it's funny, I was looking at them earlier. I could even put it up in my back. They say that there was almost like 13 to 15 different Coptic dialects. But when you look at the work done by the people in Egypt about the Coptic language, they're shunned and disrespected by Egyptologists and even other Coptologists. So, damn, the brother can't get a bone in his own land about his own people and his own language. So, the Coptic and to bring Walter Williams up again, honorable elder, but when I had the conflict with the Coptic thing, and I asked them about, can you tell me about Claudius Labib? Can you tell me about Mualim Takla? Can you tell me about these people? Can you tell me about Jerjis Mofta? And he was like, I don't know about any of those names. And I'm like, oh, damn. Well, elder, I have to tell you, I found some issues with the Coptic, stuff. Keep it 100. So I've already gone public and put videos out about this, that when it comes to the Coptic language, I tear into it. I've debated people from Egypt and Sudan who are Coptic.
Yeah, now, how did you first get in contact with people on the Nile? Like, can you speak any of the Egyptian languages or with people on the Nile? And how does that compare? Like, the other week, Sar was saying something about, why no Bohairic or Fayem? How does Fayem or Bohairic compare to people you've actually done ground research with, speaking to people on the Nile?
Well, those are like religious pidgin languages. Like those are languages that are like made for religious, spiritual talk. It's not like a language that
the Bohairic or the Coptic.
Yeah, well, that is one of the Coptic dialects, Bohairic. Okay. It's not a language that you communicate and speak to people. It's a language that they read out of a book of scriptures and spirituality. So just saying a greeting, your greeting is going to be from a spiritual book. It's not like a language that they put together like how Arabic is, or how the English language is. This is a language that's strictly, spiritual. It's not It's not like how we're conversing right now. It's not that. Boheric and Sahidic.
Right, there you go.
You got acmemic, subacmemic, you got phyumic, you got Theban, you got a ton of them. But those
So the language.
those are
Sorry, but
Coptic dialects.
the language that you was talking about that they would read from a book, would it would be spiritual. So would you call that how could I say it, like ancient language or so? Like
I don't know.
Thank you, sir.
That's what
because nobody speaks it unless you're reading it from a book.
So you can say, I can't say yes or no to that because I wouldn't know.
Okay.
But
because it seemed like only like the priest or like the a high priest will read that from a book or so, like
That's right.
And only they will be able to, like, even if somebody like memorized those words from that book, it will only be like only a few people that will understand what that person will be saying.
Right. Now there are greetings and stuff and way to talk to people, but it's not like an in-depth conversation.
Okay. All right.
And that's from debating people there in Egypt. That's what they told me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that. So
okay.
They got me on that one because I thought it was a language that was spoken like in Egypt, like a language that they regularly use. It's not.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Go ahead, Fab. You want to say something?
Wait, when was this? Like you said, you thought that it was a language that was like
how Arabic is.
Yeah. Well, when was this that you realized it wasn't, and it was just used for religious purposes?
When he was arguing with those
Egyptian people.
Nah, I'm saying, what was the time frame? Like 2000.
That was.
This is before Kendrick on trial. This is before 2015 or after?
It's after that.
Okay.
Yeah, she was trying to give me that work too. I ain't gonna lie.
You said she?
Yeah, it was a woman.
Oh.
Yeah, and she brought a couple other friends in.
So they jumped you?
Yeah, they were getting on. Yeah, and
nah, that ain't a fair one.
They I learned a lot about the Coptic stuff. I was like, thank you, I'm about to come back. Now I got my work for you. So, and that's what they explained to me. They was like, our language is, a spiritual language. It's not anything that like, I'm like, well, why isn't it like this language? My questions were, you have all these other languages over there. Do you speak those other ones? And they're saying that they do. They say, this is our sacred language, I was like, I respect it. So I'm like, I can't say anything about that. That's something personal.
Yeah. When they say our sacred language, that's like something personal.
Even with
something like.
But if they say, well, I'm about to put it up right now and going on the Quran, I'm like, I'll debunk your book left and right. If they say, we're going to debate about the scripture, then it's another thing. But my debate was about the Coptic language. And then that's when they started explaining to me that this is, spiritual. So I was like, your language comes from all these different dialects and stuff. And they were like, nah, that's spiritual language.
Hey,
Matt. The same thing in Ethiopia. That's the same thing. Like literally, they literally have the same type of church. Now, the thing I did find out about it, they're connected to the Catholic Church.
To the what?
To the Catholic Church.
Oh.
So, something's up with that.
Yeah, something fishy. Anything with the Catholic Church got something fishy going on.
Yeah.
What's a pigpen cipher? I know Blanco wants to know what's a pigpen cipher.
Yeah, I definitely do.
It's the Masonic cipher, the Rosicrucian text, the Rosicrucian cipher, and also the Napoleon cipher. It's a key that you use. It means you take a letter and you have a symbol, a set of symbols already set up, and you can use one of these symbols to represent that letter. So now you can remove the English letter, the letter from the alphabet, and just use this symbol. And by telling the other person your which symbols match up to the letter, then you have a pigpen cipher. That means it's a way that you can communicate with someone and no one else can understand what you're trying to convey.
Oh,
that's the simplest way of saying it. I like to do it the long way, but I want to be simple
So to dumb it down for the people, that is basically like, how I say it, a secret language amongst the people, like amongst them all, right?
That's right. And in fact, you know what? I'll put on the show for you. Hold on.
All right.
All right. You know, it's very interesting. I actually have a ton of my sources here. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't get that from the internet. I got that from this book. I read this book when I was, I don't know, a while ago. Let me find the page, show you real quick. Dang, when was I digging in this book?
Now, is a Pigpen cipher, is that the same thing as a Reba strip? Because I know, like you said, a lot of the Masons and the Rosicrucians, and I know they used a lot of ciphers, like in World War I, World War II, when they wanted to communicate to each other. But
yeah,
is that the same thing as a Rebus, or is a Rebus like a different illustration of something else?
No, Rebus.
Not for you, but more for the audience.
Well, Rebus is a little different. You know, it's when you're using your language and you're using something that you can physically see, and that word sounds like, you know, it's like you're okay, like leave. You see a leave on the floor, but you can also leave somewhere, and you also believe in something. So it's like you're taking nature and animate objects, and the sound that the word, the nature, the animate object, you know, makes, you can put it into a code. Like I just said, I believe, an eyeball, a B, and a leave, and that means I believe. You know, to simplify it.
Now, is that those principles that we're talking about now, like the ciphers and the Rebus principle that you spoke on with Ujawu, how does that tie in with Kratorapoa?
Ties in with who?
It's a book that you had showed me a while back. Not published in Hieroglyphica. It was the Kratorapoa. Who was the one that coined Kratorapoa? Or was it some type of book that they used to say that the letters meant, or you can assign a letter to a symbol or image, and that's how they came up with Kratorapoa?
Kratorapoa is a German society that was created by Cagliostro. And I'm trying to think of his other name, Joseph something. Cagliostro, he created these sets of rules and rituals before the Rosetta Stone was found, and you know, many different orders came out of it, and the same type of rituals and traditions that he created are the same ones that you'll see performed by people like Jabari and his wife. In the Lodge by Masons. It's the ceremony of the ritual of like the seven different, the seven rites, seven different things you go through.
That's why you pulled out that Masonic book and the Masonic rites and everything. Like,
yeah, I was trying to find this one thing in here, but you know, you already showed it, so same thing.
Yeah.
In there, but yeah, that book was a book that you know, has Pigpen cipher in it. I don't know why I can't find that page.
What was you had just brought up about the Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
How was the Rosetta Stone discovered, or I mean, was it manufactured? Did they use some type of materials? What type of process did they use? Like the other day, you were saying basically it's a fake artifact. So if you
Right.
kind of look through the
Right.
process of the Rosetta Stone.
Now that goes into another thing that people will try and deem me a conspiracy theorist because this thing behind me, I don't trust it. And I just don't. But I have scientific reasons why. I have historical reasons why. And then I have my own reason why that I don't trust it. But if I even operate within a narrative of the Rosetta Stone, you know, what's really translated in it? And then this is supposed to be a connection to the Greek language. So I am one of those people that'll tell you right now, hey, I don't believe anybody in Greek history existed. You know, saying to be upfront, I can talk about it. I know about their stories, but I truly do not believe any of them existed. And I've felt that way for a while, but that's me on a lot of things. So when it comes to supposedly being a Greek script, I don't trust it. And then when I look into the Greek language spoken today and in the Greek language of old, I run into a lot of problems. So to stay within the narrative so that it doesn't become like a conspiracy theorist thing, when it comes to the Rosetta Stone, they have made so many copies of it and so many different this and so many stories off of it. And then the person who found it, his father was a master molder. He was into master molding. They had those 72 savants. And, you know, I can go even further into that, but when it comes to Rosetta Stone, I got it back there. I just want to be objective on it. So when it comes to the translations of it, the heretic text in it, it's real sloppy. You cannot make out half of them. The top text, most of it is knocked off. So they're trying to say this whole middle section up here, you see, you know.
Talking about like the demotic, the heretic, and how they go through
this
a layer
right
by
here.
layer.
Yeah, you know, this whole little part right here. So even staying within the narrative of it, or staying that, you know, okay, let's say this is true. The period of time and the things that they have connected to it is it's just something I don't believe, man. I'm just gonna have to say that I don't believe it. But then again, I'm a born again I'm a born again non-believer. So I have a problem with the Rosetta Stone to the point where what is it made out of? When you get into the science part of it, it's made out of a material that nothing is built with around this area, but this material, you know, this type of material, we can get all into that, you know, and go into the details of it. But into the material that it's made out of, it is not something that was used to build around in Egypt. So the mastering of using this material, what the Rosetta Stone is made out of, was mastered during that time of them finding it. So I don't know, man.
Right.
It's some things about it that needs to be checked.
Right,
the other one, yeah. So that's something I got problems with.
All right, I got a question for Fab. So Fab, what do you feel about the Rosetta Stone?
I haven't like came across any material like saying it's a fake, so I'm pretty much like, and like for me, like how I stand is I stand where like I'm pretty much in contact with people like like archaeologists, Egyptologists, archaeologists, and Coptists, like people who like go to school for that stuff. So I never heard that like that. Like so what I'm doing right now, I'm just writing everything down. Like some of this stuff I do have in my notes. I just can't. Like I said, I just came from work, woke up late and shit, so I can't really.
I feel you freestyling.
Yeah, but what I'm gonna do, I'm writing everything down. Like some of the stuff he's talking about, like I have this in like my library that explains some of the contentions he has. But I just have to find it later and like this. I was like send it to Carlos. But like, yeah, I don't. For me, I don't like. I don't have a reason to like to conclude that it's like a how you say what's the name, a fraudulent artifact. I don't know, like he said the materials will come from outside of Egypt. I, but I know basically in Egyptian history, like a lot of materials came outside of Egypt that was used in Egypt. Like, so I don't know that necessarily will like give credit or weight to like, oh, it's fake because the material came outside of Egypt, right? Since that will be the era of like Greco-Roman rulership in Egypt. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that if it was made from material that came outside of Egypt. That's what I say.
Nico, you got any questions you want to ask Fab before you bring it back to Matt?
Yeah, man. And yeah, so try to like, cause I have to go finish on work, so like, let me hold up, finish. So like, can you like make sure the books that he referenced to send to Carlos, so I could like later on get a chance, I could like, just examine them.
All right, no, yeah, that's not a problem.
No, not at the particular moment. Cause this
not right now. I don't have to do it right now.
Yeah. After we done, because Matt, how much time you got on that clock? How much time you got on that clock? Like how long you been going for?
I'm good. I'm not doing any door dashing tonight.
No, okay, no. Nah, not that. Nah, cause I gotta get up. Cause I think we if I'm pretty
it's
sure, I
9:20
think
out here.
matter of fact, no,
it's
we're
like
not.
12 out there where y'all at.
It's 12:30, man. I'm about to have to get off of this.
Yeah. That's why I was like, I wanted to do a little sun, and then we probably could do more tomorrow. Cause I liked this dialogue. Nico had to come through with the questions because I was too busy listening. Like I was too busy, but yeah.
Okay, I mean we can still stay on, right, Blanco? Hey. I know he's got to get up early for work tomorrow, but are you?
Yeah, I got a 6:30.
Or you got to get up early too?
Yeah,
let me just ask you. Let me just review something. Just ask so I get this clear. All right, so for Matt, so you said the Coptic text is basically you said it's all biblical, right?
Yeah, all the texts that I discovered was always connected to some type of biblical theology. All
right, and then you said that there's the Coptic dialogue. You heard that it's 15. You're saying you heard it's 15. I mean 13 to 15, or there's 13 to 15 Coptic dialect.
It's I mean I exaggerate a little. If I get to the exact number, it could be like 13. I don't know, 12. And that's in Theophilo Banga, I believe. I could actually show that right now.
I have to get my laptop, man. This shit is. If I have my laptop, this would be better.
I want to show something else right now too. This is an image right here to show you in case you think that they were incapable of changing up Egypt or doing anything. That should show you. Not only can they can move a mountain too, and that's what they were doing. But I just wanted to share that real quick.
Yeah. So when you have to send me that, is that like that picture in the back? Yeah, like Carlos said, like so if you get a chance, Carlos, just try to send all the material he's referencing.
What happened? What was that face, Fab? What was that?
Now
What
I'm
was
looking
that
at
little?
something. I'm looking at TV. My bad.
Nah,
Not
cause
y'all.
I already know what I already know what that means. Like if you want to say
Nah,
something,
Hey,
say it
I,
now,
I'm,
bro.
I'm
You
not.
I
go
thought
ahead,
he was
say it
No,
looking
no,
now.
away.
no, 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 no.
Hey, I thought he was
I'm
looking away
not.
from the Pharaoh.
they
Oh,
playing
nah, nah. I don't.
they playing Legos with the ancient Egyptian
The
monuments, bruh.
Pharaoh.
Yeah,
Nah, I
bruh.
don't know. I don't know if that's what he said.
You're like,
What he
I
said it
hope that's
is.
Photoshop. It's not.
Cause he
Nah,
did want
nah.
to like.
I don't know if that's
Said that,
the.
I'm like, nah. Go ahead, say whatever you need to say right now.
No, 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 no. I'm saying like I don't. If I'm saying I will have to see his references where he's getting that from, like so I can like examine it, like to make sure what he's saying is like reflecting the source he's getting that from. So I'm not gonna say anything right now. Right now, what I'm doing is jotting down what he says. So I'm asking these questions to make sure I got everything correct and what
All
he's
right, so
saying, and then
there's
I'm
a
gonna.
all right. So fuck you. You jot down everything he said. So it's gonna be a part 2 later on. Then I mean,
That's
later
right.
on this weekend.
Yeah. I gotta. Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, that's it.
I
But
enjoyed it.
I've seen that image before, but I can't remember from
Nah,
where
don't
though.
say you
Abu
seen the image
Simbel.
before, bro.
No, I
Like,
did see that. I did see it before. I did.
don't say that, bro.
No, I think I did.
I can show you
Where at?
monuments all around
Wait,
the world.
did you
Hey, you
post
want to
that
go on?
in? Did you post that in Talk to the Titans before?
The most
Most
Talk to the Titans
likely,
in?
yep. And
That's
gave
what I'm saying. I've seen that
and
picture
made
before. I just
jokes
can't
and
remember.
made.
Oh,
You already know my
okay.
jokes about it. Then, yeah, playing
I
Tetris
got
with
it.
y'all shit like that's like disrespectful as hell. I can show you monuments all over the world what they look like before the people that came over there that wanted to create tourist attractions. I'll show you what a lot of them look like.
It seemed like they doing in that picture right there. It seemed like they doing a whole bunch of rearranging right there. Like I see half of the body cut off, all that. Like,
But this like they playing Tetris with the ancient
yeah, it looked
ancestors
like it.
temples,
Like
bruh.
that
That's
little long
disrespectful.
shit right there. The little you see ladders. You see all like a I don't know.
Head Shiro.
Those look like wooden cranes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I seen something the other day where on one of those monuments that they're with their cranes were moving the pharaoh head or the king head. I can't remember the German's name. It was one of those German Jews. I can't remember if it was Bartholomew or one of those type of Egyptologists where they actually wrote his name in Hebrew on the side of the
Oh
reconstructed
nah.
Damn, where's this? I wanted to show y'all something.
Yo, they will put their name in everything.
Okay, here it is.
Nah.
Here it is. But it's not gonna show the whole thing. Hold on, I need to screen share. That's the copy thing. I need to share screen. Hold on.
You gotta go.
I wanted to show you this real quick before you
alphabet.
go. Show you the Coptic dialects. Man.
That's the same as the Coptic alphabet, right? Basically.
Yep, so I gotta pull it up in my images. Yeah, before you go, man, I want you to get this so you can put this in your notes because you're gonna need it. You got anything about Coptic? Yeah.
No, I'm familiar with some of the dialects because what you call it? I interact with Team Astarius members, so they talk about this too, like.
Yo, we just gonna have a part 2, man. We just gonna have a part 2.
Yeah, we about to.
No, I need to get like, cause lately I've been doing like so much overtime, man. Like I can't like I have so much stuff like I wanted to like read and I can't like I never could like get a chance to like finish like do anything now like.
Boy, I done seen you.
Like I feel like I need a vacation, man.
Yo, bro, I done seen you come from. I done seen you come from work at 12 o'clock, go to a party at 2, and then come back at 3 or 4 o'clock with a female and be at work at 9 o'clock. So I don't want to hear all that, man. Like I want to hear all that.
Nah, this is different though, bro. You gotta have my mind. Gotta
I
be
know.
right.
I'm playing.
Oh, yo, like yeah.
Maybe
No,
I can
definitely.
share it.
Yeah, share it. Share it.
Shit, I like that this dialogue. Oh, Nico, you got anything you want to say before we left? I mean, we leave.
You're on mute.
You on mute.
Yeah, I did have a few more questions, but since everyone's got to get up early, we'll save that for part 2, Blanco.
Part 2. Okay.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, y'all.
Right now.
Matt, Nico, Fab.
All right, y'all. Everybody be safe.
For this part 2.
All right, y'all stay safe. All right.
All right.
Always.
Man.
Appreciate you coming on.
Peace,
All right. Matt.
Definitely enjoy the second one. Peace with Blanco.
All right, Blanco.
Peace and blessings.
All right.
Nico, still on.
Day off.
He's the day off. I'm like, man, you asking the extra advanced questions. I'm like, hold on, man.
Are we still recording?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just had a whet the appetite, for when we do part 2 and other presentations, stuff for them to, look up.
Man, that sucks. I couldn't even pull my thing up the screen share to get this image right here. Hey, that's dope, putting the image in the background like that. It's like, what? Look at this.
That's some Sanchez. That's some advanced Sanchez.
I'm like, you think the Rosetta Stone? The Rosetta Stone? Look at this. I mean, that ain't the only temple they did that to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point where, people need to realize. So that's why I say, I have to say, I can't say Christianity wasn't, where even with the Islam stuff, I'm like, I have to throw everything out.
How old are they saying the Coptic church is? Like, how many years old is it? Is it like 300 years old or older?
And they claim that shit to go back to like 200 BC and beyond. Excuse my language, man. But they claim it to be thousands of years old, back to the time of the Greek language.
Yeah, I mean, since we still record, I go ahead and ask my questions, and then that way, part 2, I can kind of look through my notes again and bring it up, because I still got to go back and look up the preliminary stuff. I put in my notes, what did you mean when you had wrote in your blog about ancient Egyptian is 247 years old? Or the mystery system, let me clarify. How old is the Egyptian mystery system?
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
Okay, you said how old was what?
How old is the Egyptian mystery system?
That's Kratarapol.
Oh, that's okay. That's what I was asking earlier.
1776. Same time as that,
So that's what they called, like when Suit and Say talks about the
Constitution and country.
Yeah, so when Sarah Suit and Say, he talks about the mystery system, or the priest had a mystery
the
system.
craft of Amen-Ra.
He's not talking about some ancient Bantus 1,000, 3,000 years ago. They just talking about really.
All that being raised by the lion's paw, that's Kratarapol, man.
That's less than what? Not even 200 years old. Less than 300 years.
Yeah,
that's like ancient nothing.
The stuff Ashra Kwesi does over there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And that's actually that Kratarapol. That's the stuff that Aleister Crowley was using, right, when he was doing his rituals.
Aleister Crowley said that he was the reincarnation of Cagliostro.
Now, who's Cagliostro? That's a good question. That they can look
Joseph Balsamo.
Now, is that Cagliostro? Is that one of the linguists, or is he like an occultist?
Well, he was the occult leader. It was, I believe, about like 3 of them. And he was like their adept leader, but they were all on a spiritual level of themselves. So they were all a group of adept people who were like spiritually adept. They came together and created this stuff, so you got these ceremonies. About going down the halls of Ma'at, that's Krata-Rapoa. You being lifted up by a paw of an animal, that's Krata-Rapoa. I can go down the list of them, but it created like the 7 rights. And
So all those particular rights, or even Masonic rights, that would have came out of that system.
oh yeah.
No, so who created those rights? Would have been some Jesuits. Did the Masons do it themselves? Did the Jesuits create those rights? Or I mean, that's kind of going off into a whole different topic, but
My bad.
because you had mentioned about the lion's paw, was that strictly the people that came up with Krata-Rapoa?
Yeah, see, Krata-Rapoans, they're using like their interpretation of what they saw happening in the hieroglyphs. So their interpretation and their imagination combined. So when you see Ashra Kwesi doing these ceremonies, left foot first, and all these things, he'll tell you that it comes from the ancient Egyptian priesthood and stuff, but really it comes from.
Really, he's just referencing some Masonic lore and rites and ritual.
There you go. So when it comes to the chanting mantras, that's Krata-Rapoa. When you see someone doing the mantras and they're pointing to different areas, northeast, southwest, and all that stuff, that's Krata-Rapoa. So all these ceremonies that you see everyone doing, wearing Egyptian regalia, that's also Krata-Rapoa, because I mean,
so it'd almost be like a derivative or a spinoff of Masonic lore, because I think in Freemasonry it'd be older than Krata-Rapoa. So right. Krata-Rapoa literature would be like a spinoff or spinoff literature of.
Before that, the Masonry has its own thing, and that's why it needs to be researched what exactly it was that Cagliostro created. So this man, Alessandro Cagliostro, tries to take credit for it, but, like you just said, could there be, pre-existence? And there has to be. So what is actually created by Cagliostro and what had a pre-existence? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't have an answer for that one. The only part I do know is when it comes to, that's actually my argument that I made with them, that really y'all just following Masonic ritual, and y'all need to be honest and just say you're just doing Masonic ritual.
Be transparent instead of saying it's some ancient something, right?
Right, following, and then I respect it. So when I talked about that with Jabari, Jabari was very upset, and it's just like, well, be honest, Let's be honest.
When it comes to MetaNet, what was your main contention with, say, a SAR, MOTEP, or NET or NEB? Is it just because they're just trying to throw up languages and saying this is comparable to this, French is comparable to Bantu, or because Young Pharaoh actually made a good point. He said most African languages are actually come out of Latin, and most of them you can compare because they all come from the same Latin source, especially the modern African languages.
Yeah, if they're a modern language, you can compare it to modern languages. You can see the comparison. You can see the similarity between French, Latin, and Spanish.
So your contention was, say, like a NET or NEB or SARS, not that they're trying to compare a Wolof or a Bantu Swahili to another African language, or if they all have the same Latin source. That's not really your contention. Your contention is when they lie to the public or when they're not transparent with the public, that has no relevance to Egyptian pictograms on the wall.
Right. That's right. That's my point. Like, you guys are playing with sounds. You're not playing with hieroglyphs, because that language can look at a hieroglyph and call it what, they're not going to call it Ba or Heru when they see the hawk. They're going to use their language to describe what that animal is. So
Right, they're not gonna use the rebus principle to try to create sounds and letters. Okay.
That's right. They're not going to use the rebus principle, which is an English-based system. So no, they're not doing that. And difficult thing for them. I don't know what to tell them. I don't know what to say besides when you.
And like you said, even if you were to try to legitimately compare two Latin languages or two French languages or two African languages, you can compare them, because I'm sure there is a lot of African languages that you could compare, but it would have to be going back to the source rules and syntax rules and language rules, like you mentioned earlier today on the presentation. It has to be not just the same syntax, or has to be also the same meaning, because there's like a whole methodology you have to use when you're comparing like 2 or 3 different languages.
Right. Yeah, there's a big, when it's more than 2, then that's when you get to the pseudo. When you're like, but if there are languages that are spoken now, then that's another story. The ancient Egyptian language, it's complicated, but when they say that Coptic is the language that's left over from the ancient Egyptians, here we go. The question I asked to them as well: why aren't they comparing the Bantu languages, the Congo-Niger languages, to the Coptic language? So that's when the epic fail happens on, and it falls on the shoulders of Ntr Debunked, who makes these epic mistakes. These pandemic-like errors and flaws in research.
Yeah, can you repeat that again? You said why are they comparing the Niger Congo languages to what?
To the Coptic language. Like, why aren't they trying to compare it to the Coptic?
So they're basically trying to compare it to what other
just
languages?
The ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Yeah.
Okay.
So then they try to use the Nile Valley languages, and some try to use the Dinka. Some try to use Dongolawi.
They try to use the Wolof. All types of stuff.
So when they try to use the Wolof is so far away. That's fine. But when they try and use Dinka, which is in southern Sudan, and they try and use Dongolawi, which is in northern Sudan, and they're in southern Egypt, then you're getting closer to Egypt. So when they do that, they run into conflict when you try and do the Coptic language,
because you can't compare any meanings to Coptic. Okay.
Yeah, because they told me that's their spiritual language. I can't say anything about that. Some people speak a little Latin in Italy, and all that, but the main language is Catalan. But when even in Italy, even when they read the type of language that's in the book, it's not Latin. A lot of people don't know that. When they do those big ceremonies and you see the Pope out there and they're reading from that book, this is some Catalan, old ancient Catalan type stuff. So when it comes to the Coptic language, I was like, okay, let me stand back on that one. So what is it then? Because I was told it's like a pigeon form in Egypt. I made a lot of mistakes like 4 or 5 years ago about it that I had to correct myself. And that's why I'll say that, dang, when I had those debates with those people in Egypt and Sudan, they were kicking my butt because I didn't know how to respond to things I didn't know. So when I get hit with a question that I don't know, I'm like, oh, I don't even know what that is. Like, I got to go look that up. So when it comes to the Coptic language being a spiritual language, then they try and apply that to the ancient Egyptian stuff. And that goes again to, the Krataraphoa stuff, but the Krataraphoa.
Or they'll try to say proto something, proto the beginning of, and you can't even prove the proto foundation.
Right. So when it comes to the hieroglyphs, everything is philosophical. Have you noticed, like, it's always romanticized? There's so much romanticism in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Like
the meta letter lines look like poetries or quatrains.
Yes. Like
they're trying to make the Coptic sound.
The great Ra crossed over the river and cut his penis, and his penis blood dripped on some sign hue came out of it, and some weirdo philosophies going on. So on top of that, it's some weirdo perverse philosophies going on here, man. And hey. So when it comes to those the philosophies that they're pulling out of the ancient Egyptian stuff, and it's funny because I can literally use their stuff against them. An example is one time I was having a rigorous debate with Ankakek, Asar Imhotep, Wujawu, and some other person. And they said, all right, we're going to try and deal with me. Like, they were literally going to try. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, bro, do you know how bad it looked on Garfield's part when you guys allowed me to have any momentum? It looked real bad. I was hitting them with jabs, boom, 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 left and right. But that's when someone comes at me in that conflicting matter. If someone's cool and it's all good, but you come at me in a conflicting matter, you're gonna run into some problems. Because I could have some stuff to make you think, oh, I got him, he's pseudo, and then out of nowhere, oh, like, hold on, I didn't even know that. Who got? Damn, you're at to 100 of them people names that got this. You fall under what I felt with the Coptic woman, and debating her. That was the first real Coptic debate that I had, and yeah.
So you can't even. So basically, you were saying earlier, you can't even really compare the Coptic to other Latin languages or other African languages, correct?
No. And in Ethiopia, they have the same situation. They have a book, and it's the same literal. It's the same culture. So that Coptic culture is literally practiced in Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. Now, the other one you mentioned earlier, you also said Sufi.
Mm-hmm.
But in the Coptic one, I think they're called Sigils or something like that. I'm trying to remember the exact name. I think Sigil, something. Not Sigil.
Some Latin term.
No, it's not Latin. It's an actual word in the Coptic language, but it slips my mind at the moment.
So why aren't you allowed to compare the Coptic to other African languages? Like, what's the reasoning behind it?
Oh, people try to. No, it's not that they don't. There's been someone who tried to compare Dinka.
Is it because the meanings are totally different?
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with hieroglyphs.
Okay.
Coptics have their own
system.
Yeah, they have their own.
It's like they're trying to take two conflicting systems and trying to superimpose it upon another system.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So, hey, it's that's the conflict in it. So it's like, hey, the Coptics have their own symbol. So I'm not buying it.
Yeah, and you're saying the Ge'ez are, what's that script in Ethiopia? Is it the Ge'ez? How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, that's the Ge'ez script.
That's the new. Is that somehow tied into the Coptic?
Yeah, it is tied into it, but it's a specific some specific like language that's directly linked.
And that script isn't even that old. That Ethiopic, that guy's geese,
No.
or the Amharic.
No, they're not. Most people will argue, but it's like now I just have to be genuine with people, and some stuff they've been telling us with these old dates and all this with history, but there's a lot of holes in that history. It's just that now I feel that since 2020 came and people got hit with a pandemic, maybe it's time y'all face these truths that most of that information, man, there's no empirical data. There's no original. You know, just like for the Greek stuff, there you can't find a single body. People try and beat up the Bible. You can't show me anyone from the Bible. You can't show me someone from Greek history. Where's Herodotus' body at? Where's he buried? Where are all their bodies at? What happened? Where'd they go? Did they get up and walk away when Jesus came? Is that what's going on? What's going on?
Right.
No one has answers. So then when you get into their information, you find out that, you know, this is something I really don't want to start going into, but you'll find holes in the information. You find a lot of holes. And for years, I tried to stay within the narrative and not share that unfortunately, when you get into the Greek stuff, it's a lot of bogus information. And I have information that I use to show and prove that. Same thing with the Coptic. Same thing with the hieroglyphs. Same thing with the Mesopotamian Sumerian cuneiform. For all those ancient languages that fall under either the pseudo-linguistics or pseudo-scientific language comparison, I have my own personal way to respond.
Yeah, you're saying even with the Sumerian cuneiform, you had mentioned the author J.K. Rawlinson, which is tied in with the Royal Society.
That's right. Oh,
a lot of that stuff with the Royal Society, they're just trying to make all their studies or their Oriental studies fit into the biblical narrative.
That's right. That's right. The Royal Society, the group.
They're doing a lot of backdating, basically.
That's right. And the ones who are the fellows who are doing this, it's a specific group of fellows of the Royal Society who are doing this, and it's helping create the philosophy for a tourist attraction. So the Royal Society, they're the commonwealth of like 56 nations, 54 nations. They're the ones that benefit by people traveling to a place and paying a lot of money to go see it. So these people, such as, you know, J.K. Rawlinson, fellow of the Royal Society, J.J. Bartholomew mentioned earlier, the one who said that the names in the cartouche, I mean, those are names in the cartouche, he's a fellow of the Royal Society. Thomas Young, remember everything goes silent, no one's saying anything until Thomas Young comes out, June 13th, here comes a fellow of the Royal Society. You know, Nobel Peace Prize winner, master mathematician, and he was the president of the Royal Society too, by the way.
Yeah, so he's like a polymath. Like,
yep.
I'm sure, like, you know what a polymath, but for anyone out there that doesn't know a polymath isn't necessarily someone with a high IQ, because you can have a good, faster processing power or a bigger memory chip than everyone. So it's not necessarily just a high IQ. When you're a polymath, I'm just saying this for the audience, not you. A polymath is someone that's skilled not just in one skill set, but multiple skill sets, and they know how to synthesize different subjects together, or say you're good not just at math, but you're also good at math and engineering, or math and art, and you can even combine those subjects together. That's what a polymath is. That's
right. He's a master of many trades, a jack of all trades. No,
there you go. But let me jump off this recording, because I gotta do some tomorrow too. So I know if you're still recording.
Yeah, I'm still recording. Let me cut it off for everyone. We throw a little music on, so I cut it off.
Throw a little Sanchez music on there.
Before it's 10 o'clock, for the dude start, you know. Yeah.
That's the beat you just made.
Yeah. I can't play it loud, y'all, because it's late.
Yeah, it looked like you got your own little man cave now with the brick wall.
Now I got this. Well, you know what I did was I started building my little studio. So far I have these speakers, and you know, and in due time I'll have my whole Yamaha studio. I know there's a lot of different stuff with these Yamahas, man. If I turn this up right now, I'll have everything shaking. And when you see the size of the speakers, you'll be like, damn, man, you could damn near that sound fill up a whole damn club. You know? So yeah. As I do this, family, it's gonna become more professional and stuff, because I'm gonna start getting back into this. Gotta get back into promoting, by the way. It's all good, brother Nico, go. Man, we got Universal Media TV popping off, man. We got these boxes going. We're doing our thing. This would be like the first, what they call black, although I don't agree with that word, black. But they can say this is the first black cable network. No, it's not just cables, international. So we got that going on. 5,000 Elite, we back at it. Man, the Keisha Network. Thank you, Nico. We had our good brothers on earlier. Peace, y'all.